I remember halfway through usually. So Anshul is a trained climate reality leader and policy and research director at New Yorkers for Clean Power. He's also a member of the leadership team for the New York State Climate Realities Chapter Coalition. He took early retirement from IBM, where he was a principal researcher in high performance computing, including energy, materials, and decarbonization. I heard Anshul speak at the Northeast Regional Conference in March, which is a plug for coming to these regional conferences. They're easier to get to, they're cheaper than going to Washington, D.C., and it's a great opportunity to meet people from our region that are involved in the climate advocacy. Anshul's accomplishments are varied and considerable. So I'll just give you a few high points that struck me when I was reading his bio. He has an all-electric home with a geothermal heat pump, which I think is awesome. He has participated in several campaigns to stop oil pipelines. And he volunteers for an international organization that gives young people fun, exciting ways to explore STEM curriculum, which is, of course, science, technology, engineering, and math. Some of the projects he did with this youth group include ways to reduce freshwater pollution from road salt, which is a pretty big issue for us here in Plymouth. And also, this is so cool, generating power for a future Mars colony. So we have about 25 minutes tonight for Anshul to speak, and then we'll have some Q&A, and then we'll go through the rest of the agenda, which is some of the stuff we are working on as a chapter. So with that, I'd like to give the floor to Anshul. Welcome.
Thank you, Linda, for that introduction. I will start sharing my screen.
Oh, yes, let me make sure you can.
Oh, actually, I cannot.
Okay, let me just fix that for you here. Whoops. All right, now try.
Okay.
Good, you can see it.
I hope you can see the first slide.
Yes.
Okay, good evening. My name is Anshul Gupta, and I'm on the leadership team of the New York State Chapters Coalition of the Climate Reality Project. We just had a huge training in New York City. I hope some of you were able to make it to that. We had lots of attendance from from the Northeast region, and Al Gore was just fantastic. Anyway, and I'm also the policy and research director for New Yorkers for Clean Power, which is a statewide campaign to rapidly transition the state to emissions-free sources of energy. Okay, so tonight I'm going to talk about the gas utilities campaign to undermine New York's Climate Act, and so this is the fossil fuel industry has been sort of duping people, has engaged in massive legislative and regulatory capture for the last 50 years. So this is just a very, very tiny like corner of this huge iceberg of disinformation. I'm going to talk only about the demand side disinformation. Of course, the same industry, the gas industry, is also engaged in massive disinformation campaigns on the supply side against transmission projects, against offshore wind, and there are all kinds of lies against electric vehicles. But anyway, this presentation is just about gas, piped gas in people's homes. Some of the top gas utilities engaged in disinformation in New York State are National Grid, National Fuel Gas, and Central Hudson. National Grid should be of interest to the Massachusetts crowd because they are the utility in Massachusetts, and they're pretty much doing the same thing in Massachusetts. They have their front groups. The main one being New Yorkers for Affordable Energy. It is actually funded by the American Petroleum Institute and some gas utilities, as well as large gas pipeline companies like Enbridge, etc. And the trade associations like the American Gas Association. Um, all New York State gas utilities are paying members of American Gas Association. In Massachusetts, EverSource became the first gas utility in the country, I believe, to withdraw its membership from the American Gas Association. Um, but all the other utilities are essentially using customer money to pay membership dues to American Gas Association, which just goes back and lies to the same customers who are paying to to be lied to. Uh, so New Yorkers for Affordable Energy positions themselves as a consumer friendly sort of group for affordable energy, but they are essentially a 401(c)(6) uh, uh, 401(c)(6) business league, which is technically a nonprofit, but by law their mission is to uh, serve the interests of their members. And their stated mission in their tax filing is to expand natural gas. These are some of the members, including National Grid, and this front group is a big sort of headache in New York State because it's hard to educate all the lawmakers that New York for Affordable Energy is a fossil fuel group and has nothing to do with affordable energy. We sort of intercepted one of the slides from their internal presentation in which they lay out their strategy um, for the public disinformation campaign. So they use like literally every tool in the toolbox: TV, digital, print ads, robocalls, uh, press releases, media interviews, earned media, social media, and grassroots outreach. And this was in the context of a bill, All Electric Building Act, which would prohibit fossil fuel hookups in new construction, in new buildings, which affects sort of a tiny segment of the population and only new homes. Most of the homes in New York State are sort of those are the sort of major sources of emissions. So what these people were doing, they were calling existing homeowners and telling them that the All Electric Building Act will take their gas stoves away, which is a complete lie, and it doesn't affect existing gas customers, and getting them angry and getting them to call their legislators. So that's that's what these people can get away with. Uh, um, they are very active still in New York State. These are their ongoing Facebook campaigns that are active right as we speak. So, despite their opposition, we managed to. They succeeded in 2022, but in 2023 we passed the All Electric Building Act. Now they're targeting another sort of gas transition bill that amends the Public Service Law to repeal the 100-foot rule subsidy and the obligation to serve gas. Uh, so these are examples of some of their ongoing campaigns.
So
But then the gas.
quick question. So you did pass New York did pass the bill to prohibit hookups in new construction?
Yes, we passed it last year. It goes into effect in 2026 for smaller buildings and 2029 for larger buildings. So it's
Thank you.
not in effect right now.
Thank you.
But the gas utilities have basically access to all their customers. Uh, so they have like this free audience, and these are some of the examples of emails that two gas utilities were sending all their customers. Uh, and so they have sort of a this very convenient means of spreading this information. And this is Central Hudson. They were asking their customers to submit a comment to the Climate Action Council, basically opposing the New York State's climate plan. But I want to focus on National Grid. Um, they have a so-called clean energy vision, which is literally BS. Uh, because it depends on a lot on so-called renewable natural gas, which is, as most of you know, derived in large part uh, from uh, from animal manure, livestock manure. So which is why it's literally BS. But anyway, um, it seeks to eliminate fossil fuel from our gas networks in Massachusetts and New York. So they have this clean energy vision that they are promoting in both the states, replacing it with renewable natural gas and green hydrogen. And of course, we know that this is completely false. There isn't enough of these fuels to to replace more than 5% of the natural gas use, and and hydrogen in any case is not meant for heating for various reasons. But anyway, these are just the examples of how they operate. This is a presentation that National Grid uh, made to Staten Island Community Board. And so this is just one example. They're going and making these presentations to all the community boards within their service territory, and scaremongering about the the climate law. So CLCPA is New York's climate law. It's called the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, and we sort of caught these people in the act lying about reliability, lying about affordability, lying about grid capacity, uh, saying that the heat pumps don't work in cold climate. Never mind that Maine is the leader, the country's leader in heat pump adoption. Uh, and hydrogen and RNG are going to solve our climate problems. Uh, there's another utility that operates in Western New York, National Fuel Gas. They they took their customer database and put that database into a robocalling sort of campaign where these robocalls will go to their customers, scare the hell out of them about New York's climate law, and get them angry and tell them to call their legislators if they didn't want the government coming after their gas stoves. Uh, now, the utilities also have influence on business groups. For example, the uh, the chair, the president of National Fuel Gas that ran that robocalling campaign was also the chairman of the New York State Business Council. And here are some examples how the utilities were recruiting business groups to spread this information. So on July 16, 2022, there was an op-ed in Crain's New York Business. It was authored by a vice president of National Grid, where he wrote about the same thing, renewable natural gas and hydrogen, and how they're going to replace natural gas. And he writes that green hydrogen is, and sorry for the blurry slide, I will send the slides to Linda and she can distribute them to the group. So green hydrogen is another important fossil-free fuel produced by separating hydrogen out of the water molecule, leaving only water vapor behind. So this is technically wrong. You take the hydrogen out of the water molecule, you have oxygen behind. You leave oxygen behind. You can't take hydrogen out of the water molecule and leave water molecule behind. So this guy is confused between um, combusting hydrogen for home heating versus use of hydrogen in fuel cells. When you use hydrogen in fuel cells, that's when you leave water vapor behind. But of course, he's not a scientist; he's a lawyer, so he's excused. So he mixed up the production of hydrogen versus use in fuel cells. So this is completely wrong. Anyway, a few weeks later, an op-ed appears in Newsday, which is a major Long Island sort of publication. It has 500,000 subscribers. This op-ed was authored by the guest essay reflects the views of the executive director of the Riverhead Chamber of Commerce. Now, in her op-ed, she writes that hydrogen blah 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 is produced by separating hydrogen out of the water molecule, leaving only water vapor behind, which is literally a copy paste of what appeared in National Grid's op-ed. But earlier, she also said She wrote that I learned about these low carbon alternatives to fossil fuels when National Grid presented its vision for a clean energy future to the Chamber of Commerce. Uh, so of course we have the recording of their presenting to the Long Island Community Board. So apparently they also presented the same sort of nonsense to their local Chamber of Commerce. But not only did they present that, they literally left a script with these people for them to copy paste and amplify their talking points, which is what this lady proceeded to do. And sure enough, our hunch was true because a few weeks later, an op-ed appeared in Albany Times Senior. So this is New York City, this is Long Island, this is Albany, authored by the president and CEO of the Center of Economic Growth and Capital Region Chamber. Guess what he writes? He writes that hydrogen, blah, 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 is produced by separating hydrogen out of the water molecule, leaving only water vapor behind. So this is what we are dealing with. So that National Grid, which is a huge utility both in Massachusetts and Long Island, is giving literally written talking points to business groups and telling them to do their dirty work. And then all these chambers of commerce and business groups are copy pasting from the script and getting more earned media for National Grid's disinformation campaign. Uh, okay, I will let me know how the quality is. I'm going to play some video clips here. Uh, Again, which we intercepted, and in this, the fossil fuel industry is describing their tactics to beat climate legislation. If the audio is not good, I can share the video directly from my computer instead of sharing it through Google Slides. So please just interrupt me and let me know. Okay. I don't think this will work. So I will stop sharing this and I will share directly from my computer. Just give me 1 second. Hmm.
New York State Propane Gas Association Fall 2021 Conference.
To muster the political opposition that we need to attract moderate Democrats in places like Long Island and Westchester or Rockland County. But now, we introduce some messaging to them about the downsides to see, okay, what were the messages that were most persuasive? So we created a website, that's the base of the campaign, but then there are these digital ads. We positioned this as a tax. We called it Stop New York's $20,000 home heat tax. You see a lot of women in these. That's because the research also showed that women were much more likely to shift their position on this.
We put hundreds and hundreds of messages out there.
Our plan is for more, bigger, better. So
Okay. Did the sharing thing disappear?
Yes,
sorry
I think
about
you'll
that.
have to reshare your slides.
Yeah. Uh,
That's quite amazing. Interesting about women being the target for this disinformation campaign.
yes, but then you can imagine when we showed this to women legislators in Long Island, Westchester, and Rockland counties, what their reaction was. We got them furious, which is, I mean, that played a huge role in getting the bill passed. So, we literally showed this to all the women legislators. Look, you're being duped. Uh, okay. So, and the other strategy is, of course, capturing the moderate Democrats. So this is, and again, this will be the same strategy in blue states, including Massachusetts. So they capture the moderate Democrats and then get the small fraction of moderates, so-called moderates, I would call them climate extremists, to block climate legislation because the speaker or the leader of the House basically has to listen to their members, all their members, and save them. If they say that, hey, if you pass this bill, we'll lose the election. So anyway, that's one part. And their strategy was so, and of course they've researched the talking points, they researched their audience.
Hundreds and hundreds of messages out there.
Our plan is for more, bigger, better. So the particular messaging themes that we know resonate most to get people's attention and get them get them to voice their opinions are the issues of affordability, reliability, particularly in their home and the electric grid and in their cars, and finally choice.
And again, I'm sure the words affordability and reliability show up in Massachusetts too. This
Yes.
is the standard playbook. Yes. So then, before the Electric Building Act passed, the Assembly held a hearing, and all kinds of people sort of came in to speak. And I showed those op-eds to sort of show the extent of coordination between these groups, which is sort of very visible in this hearing because those talking points were again distributed to all the opposition actors from different industries, and you can hear them in these sort of snippets.
I want to focus on the issue of affordability and reliability.
To get New York to its goals that put affordability and reliability, and in some cases, hybrid systems provide more affordability and reliability. Solutions that achieve the shared goals while supporting reliability and affordability.
The All Electric Buildings Act could have serious repercussions in terms of energy reliability, resiliency, and affordability that will impair energy reliability and increase costs for consumers.
Leveraging existing asset condition projects really with affordability, reliability in mind.
Nor can it upset energy reliability and availability and affordability, that we answer the questions related to energy reliability and affordability. How are we going to ensure that we're getting energy reliably and affordably? You know, listen to the folks that have talked about energy reliability and affordability.
Businesses care about cost, affordability, and reliability.
We're concerned about supply chain reliability of the grid and affordability so that...
I want to see a more organized effort to push back on the CLCPA. We should all be gathering together to push back.
And lastly, transitioning the gas system.
So you heard about affordability and reliability, and this is hydrogen and renewable natural gas.
100% fossil-free between now and 2050 with key milestones along the way. Traditional fossil-based natural gas will be increasingly displaced by renewable natural gas and green hydrogen.
Continued development of innovative technology is also required for 2040 and should include the use of hydrogen. To succeed, the energy transition must maintain reliability and affordability, as well as optimize all available resources.
But we are...
You may remember that there was I think I'll skip this part because this is very sort of specific to a certain region in New York, and it may not. It's about a snowstorm in Buffalo in which 46 people died, and how the fossil fuel industry was basically exploiting that. But I will.
Wow! Look at that picture.
Yeah, and telling people that hey, heat pumps don't work, and if something like that happens, you're all going to freeze. But anyway, so let me stop that, and I will go back to the where is copy. Okay. Uh, Sorry about that. I'm trying to go to the next slide. Yes. Okay, so shifting gears to Massachusetts. This is a headline from Boston Globe, and you can just read the headline. I don't need to talk
Yes.
about it. So uh, the when I sort of share the slides will have a link to the actual article. Um, and this was a study from UMass Lowell, and this is the actual document that shows that National Grid was essentially editing this this paper, this technical paper, before it was submitted.
Yeah.
And So it looks like Linda is already familiar with this, that this happened. So
I remember reading that article in the Globe.
yeah, and this is I pulled out from the Globe also had links to all their sources, and I pulled this one out because this is sort of one of the most damning ones that not only National Grid funded this study without anyone knowing that National Grid is funding, because they funded the study through a front group. And to make it all look like it's all kosher, and then National Grid people were actually sitting and editing the paper. Anyway, and this is the actual product of that study, talking about the viability of hydrogen as a heating fuel, which is like complete nonsense. But anyway, so again, I think the slides will have a link to this article, which we published in response in New York Daily News to bust the hydrogen and renewable natural gas myth. And again, this is not something I need to sort of convince this crowd, but at the time when we intercepted that study, there was this Dr. Rosnow, who's a sort of a world-renowned expert in hydrogen and uses and home heating. There was sort of 37 independent studies that show that hydrogen doesn't work for home heating. Now it's more than 50. So only National Grid studies say that they can actually use hydrogen for home heating. Similarly, renewable natural gas, other than the fact that their supplies are so limited, it can never replace any meaningful fraction of natural gas. The production of renewable natural gas itself is highly problematic. I don't know if you remember, there was this huge headline a few months back, I think earlier this year, where an RNG facility in Texas in a dairy farm caught fire, and there was so much ambient methane that the entire farm burnt down almost instantaneously, and every single cow was killed. Now, methane is a molecule that's lighter than air. It dissipates very quickly, just sort of rises up, and the facility has sort of these massive fans for air circulation. Still, at the instant the fire started, there was enough methane, and all this methane is being released from the collection storage of the manure for producing RNG, that the farm burned down instantaneously, killing every single cow in that farm. So yeah, this is the end of my presentation. This is again more relevant for the New York audience. We tell them to to send anything that they come across where the fossil fuel industry is spreading disinformation, and we have a compilation of that in this in a document which is the work of sort of several activists all over the state. But again, it's a 29-page document focused only on the disinformation related to burning natural gas for heating and cooking inside homes. So it's a very, very narrow sort of segment of the disinformation. And we have 29 pages worth of information collected in the last 2 years just for New York State. And yeah, so in every communication that we put out regarding any climate topic, we make it a point to include something about the fact that the oil and gas companies always lie. Don't believe them, because we don't have the resources to counter every one of their pieces of disinformation. And so a more effective strategy for us is to discredit them as messengers, so that people take everything that they hear from the oil and gas industry with a grain of salt and don't believe them. And we tell them that, if a gas company or the oil company is telling you anything, just believe the opposite, because it's a lie. So anyway, with that, I will stop sharing and would take any questions. I don't know how I did with time.
We're fine for time, Anshul. Is any of what they're doing illegal?
So some of the stuff that the gas utilities are doing is in a legal gray area, and it's actually illegal. But we have the problem is that the Public Service Commission that's supposed to regulate them, all the commissioners, they come from gas utilities.
Got it.
So the national fuels, the robocalling thing that I showed you, the public, since it blew up in the media, Public Service Commission had no choice but to open an investigation. But they ended the investigation with nothing, and told them that, hey, they used only some $600 worth of money for creating a pointer to that website. But the Public Service Commission completely ignored the fact that the collection, storage, and maintenance of customer data that they used is also done using customer money. So just because they didn't spend any money on that for this particular campaign doesn't mean that they didn't use a resource that was created using ratepayer money, which is illegal. But unfortunately, the Public Service Commission is controlled by the gas industry, so we are a little bit stuck there. It takes time to change the commissioners, because they are appointees of the governor. So we just had 2 new commissioners. We still have the gas people in majority, but at least 3 out of 7 are slightly enlightened.
So is that your PUC there in New York?
Yeah, that's the equivalent.
I think in Massachusetts, it's the DPU, Department of Public Utilities.
Yeah. So very important to pay attention to who gets nominated, and then at least in New York, then the New York State Senate has to vote on that nomination. And if there are shady candidates, then we need to lobby with the legislature to vote them down, things like that.
So where do we start? Dick, Nicola, Evan, Anatole, questions? Anatole, you have to unmute yourself. Lower left corner. Well, I tell you what, if anyone else has a question, you can go, and then Anatole will go next. Evan?
Hi, yeah, I just I want to thank you so much for coming in, giving your presentation to us tonight. And I wanted to ask if there's any way to look into so around here, I think it's National Grid and Eversource. Is there any way to look into, I guess, what they're doing around here and the disinformation that they're spreading around here in Massachusetts?
So I know they are doing that because we had this
Wait for their mouth to move.
in Boston in Boston Globe, and since I have Google Alerts set up for National Grid, I often see their articles, similar sort of articles in Massachusetts publications. I didn't keep track of them because I was only keeping track of the New York stuff.
Right.
But it's the same thing. They're doing the same thing. If you set up Google Alerts, you will find these articles appearing in various op-eds appearing, saying how how renewable natural gas and hydrogen will replace the fossil gas. Because I've seen those in Massachusetts publications, except that I can't find a specific one.
Yes, I've seen that too. They talk about renewable natural gas and hydrogen, and I don't think ordinary people have no clue what they're talking about, really.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so that's just greenwashing that's to continue the gas distribution system and promising people that, hey, it's just that the gas that's coming through those pipes will just get cleaner and you'll be fine, which is a complete and total lie. There is no solution other than downsizing the gas system and neighborhood by neighborhood getting people off the system.
Right.
And they're resisting that because all their profit comes from the infrastructure. They don't make a dime by selling the actual fuel. All their money comes from the infrastructure investments, which is why they're fighting tooth and nail.
So there are some bills in the Massachusetts legislature this session that are dealing with that. One of them is called the Future of Clean Heat, and it's trying to basically admit that renewable natural gas and hydrogen are not solutions, and that the solution is to get off of natural gas and to decommission those lines. So I have a feeling that's going to be very hard fought, but it did get out of committee, and depending on what they do to it, how much they dilute it or water it down or take the teeth out of it, but it's an issue that's being fought at the state level here. We have an organization called the Green Energy Consumer Alliance, which does advocacy to the State House on things like that. I think they were one of the groups that helped write that bill. So it's certainly people know about, the people who pay attention to it know about the issue. The ordinary person, affordability, reliability, what was the other one? Choice. I've seen that over and over again in the paper. People have to be able to choose. If they want natural gas, they should have the choice. You can't stop building it. So I just wanted to give Anatole a minute. I think you got yourself
I
unmuted.
unmuted myself. Can you hear me? Yeah, I have a question, Anshul. Do you know anything about the homeowner associations that severely restrict use of solar energy? And rumor is that they are connected to the utility companies, but nobody can prove anything that they're connected.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to say. They could be. We know that the utilities are going to all these community boards, business chambers, and lying to them. So they may not be directly may or may not be directly connected to the utilities, but the utilities may have scared them, and which is why they're acting the way they're acting.
Mhm.
Yeah, and again, a lot of these associations probably just have people with sort of very conservative people on the boards anyway, which would
Mhm.
uh, which would which and those people could be doing this on their own accord. So who knows?
Who knows indeed?
So do you think it's productive to try to talk to the local Chamber of Commerce? You know, they're a very conservative group, I'll say, in our town and pretty much most places, but should we be talking to them?
I mean, I don't know. In our experience, we have found that it hasn't been very productive talking to extremely conservative groups. Sometimes you can soften the opposition from moderate groups, especially when you show them uh, that the investments in the gas infrastructure are actually raising people's bills.
Mhm.
And why would you support raising people's bills, gas
Mhm.
bills,
Mhm.
existing customers' gas bills or utility bills? So if those who get it, they kind of uh, they won't start supporting any climate legislation, because I think there's just they're stuck in their ideological space and they're not going to come out of that. But sometimes it helps to soften opposition.
Mhm. Mhm.
We try to get things done by energizing our sort of our allies.
I
mostly.
see. Yeah. Well, that's consistent with what the climate lobby says, that don't spend time with climate deniers, spend time with people who are persuadable.
Yeah.
Have you guys heard of the Swiss granny case?
Yes.
Help me.
It was I believe it was a couple of years ago, but it was a European Human Rights Court found that the inaction of governments on climate change is a violation of human rights. Basically, that humans have the right to life and health and things like that. I just wondered if I mean, obviously that's the European Court of Human Rights, but I didn't know if that might be something that could be used here, and potentially against the fossil fuel industry as a violation, violators of that human right. I mean, the court would probably argue, but they're providing a service, and they're giving you energy and their heat or whatever. But um, you know, I just wondered if that might be a tool that could be used as well here. I don't know if you have any knowledge about that. Sorry.
No, again, I don't know. I mean, this is so right now we don't even have any sort of major legal action in that direction in any of the major states, other than one in Montana, or,
That's right.
or the US. So by the time that happens, then and hopefully the decision would be favorable to us, but then it's going to be challenged. And then by the time sort of the results of that trickle into actual implementation, I think it will be too late. We need to focus on what's happening right now. We need to cut our emissions by 50% by 2030, which is 6 years from now, and focus on the tangible, achievable things. And use the Inflation Reduction Act to our advantage. Try to get as many people off gas, and utilize those tax credits, because the tax credits are unlimited. And the more we implement, essentially we prevent more of our state's money flowing to the federal government. So it's a like a macroeconomic advantage too for our states. to get as much implementation done as possible within the 10-year period. Now it's only 9 years left, and get as much federal money out of that. And
so one of the climate lobby's policy objectives is to protect the Inflation Reduction Act, because especially if the administration switches next year, that's going to be very difficult. But even with the current divided Congress, we'll get a call from nationals saying, we need you to mobilize and contact your congressman and say, protect the money. There's like money that's part of the farm bill. I don't know. There are different pockets of money that the conservatives would like to reallocate to non green energy uses. So in addition to protecting what we've got, we want to, the two big initiatives that Climate Lobby has this year is to get permitting reform passed so that it doesn't take 15 years to build a new transmission line, because we're never going to get the benefits of the Inflation Reduction Act if we don't have more throughput. And the other one is, of course, the standard policy that the Climate Lobby is known for, which is a carbon fee and dividend, a price on a pollution fee that starts low and increases $10 a year relentlessly until the emission goals are met. So I guess what I'm hearing is that we need to try to combat disinformation when we can, be aware of it, but that we need to talk to our grassroots supporters. They need to be calling their legislators about about this as to counter all those people that are calling from the chamber or from those emails. Has anyone I see Nicola has her hand up. I'm just gonna ask a quick question. Has anyone gotten an email from Eversource or National Grid saying, call your legislator about a bill? I don't recall seeing it, but okay, Nicola.
No, I just wanted to remind people, of course, always, I'm actually stood up. I'm on the board of Cape Light Compact, which is our local utility. I just decided that this information, all this was just too important to stay on the sidelines. So I'm getting involved. I'm still new on the board, so I'm very interested in what people have to say. But just to guide our utilities to more sustainable sources, which I think Cape Light Compactor have a big mandate to do that. But also to take in Massachusetts, we have option for free home energy assessments and zero interest loans, and obviously we always, I know you guys know this, but we need to keep a idea on the ground when we're talking to people at ground zero. People who are talking about changing their boiler out. Their boiler just quit. Now what do I do? We there are very much Massachusetts has a lot of energy incentives. So I just wanted to plug for that.
So we will be giving information about that at our Earth Day table next weekend. We have a little doll's house model that we made that we call our clean energy tiny home, and it's a little house, and it has a heat pump on the side and a solar panel on the roof and everything. So we will be trying to get the word out to people about the incentives, and the economic incentives I think really have enticed people to install heat pumps. I was just at the bank today. My news, which my husband will say, I talk about it all the time, is that we just finally, this week, we're installing 2 heat pumps in the Southeastern Mass Pine Barren Alliance building and replacing 2 oil furnaces, which it's taken us over a year to get grant funding and then the state incentives, it was like $40,000, and then it got $17,000 from the state. We got a matching grant. We have cobbled together some grant money to do this, and I just feel like, okay, it's two down, many more to go, but that's how it's going to be done, is building by building by building. But that's just too slow. We're never going to, so the future clean heat is trying to get the state to mandate that the gas companies develop plans to basically get out of the natural gas business, to do network to geothermal. Anshul, there's at least 2 pilot projects in Massachusetts to get whole neighborhoods on networked geothermal. And so in the best case, we'd say gas companies have a future. They have a future. They have to go into the geothermal business or whatever, though. I mean, it's just so different from what, I'm not sure that really works. It's kind of like IBM, and when the Apple computer came out, you have, IBM is the hidebound company. And I apologize if you're an IBM researcher, but it's different. So I don't know what we do other than talk. Go ahead.
I was told that oil wells could easily be retrofitted for geothermal because they already have a core, a drill, a hole drill down very deep, and could easily tap geothermal heat that way. Sorry to interrupt.
This is a different geothermal. So this is not the geothermal heat for producing electricity. This is just shallow geothermal for heat exchange. So and geothermal isn't even the correct word for it. It's just called geothermal. It should be a ground source.
Ground source
heat pump, which is completely different from using geothermal energy to produce electricity, which is again a very promising but a completely different area. I want to mention one more. So basically, as you said, that this is going to be too slow, and the way to make it not slow is to do this at neighborhood scale.
Right.
So basically, when a gas section of the gas network is old and coming up for replacement, rather than spending tens of millions of dollars to replace that pipe with new gas pipe, which has a physical life of 80 to 100 years, get that entire neighborhood off of gas. And so that's the way to scale this up. And one more sort of source of disinformation and another roadblock that I want to mention, which is extremely important, is that when people's boilers break down, and even if they want to install a heat pump, they call their traditional HVAC company, and they are told that, hey, heat pumps don't work, or don't install heat pump water heater. So a lot of disinformation and resistance is coming from the actual contractors and installers, and that also needs to be sort of sorted out. From appliance salespeople, if like even in a Home Depot, if you try to go and buy induction, the person there will tell you that no, buy the gas stove because this is unproven, and if it breaks down, who will fix it? Blah blah blah. So all these hurdles, one should be aware of. And these people are being quote unquote educated by the gas utilities. So
and some of them are being paid, I believe, to keep gas. I've heard that with new home building, that home builders will get like $2,000 each for putting in a gas stove, putting in gas from the gas. I don't know, is it a utility or wherever, but they actually get cash for that. But I went to Home Depot to look at induction stoves, and they didn't have a single one didn't have anything on the showroom floor. They didn't have any. So I realized that we're out of time, and this is such an important topic that we'll come back to it again. But Anshul, I really appreciate your effort, and you're giving us some of your time for this. It's very much appreciated. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gupta.
Thank you.
Yes.
And I will send a PDF of my slides to you.
Thank you. I will send those out, and I will
Thank
send
you.
out the recording as well, because I think we'll get quite a few more people listening to this discussion on YouTube. So thank you so much. And we'll
Thank you.
spend just a few minutes, I promise, going over what we have coming up in the next month. I'm going to stop the recording.